as we know, the country is battling an unemployment crisis, and even those lucky enough to find work are struggling under tough economic conditions. Now, the introduction of a national minimum wage has done little to alleviate poverty. Many feel the 3.8% increase in the minimum wage coming into effect at the end of the month does little to compensate for increasing living costs. Let's chat more about this now with Mervyn Abrahams. He's the program coordinator at the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group. Mervyn, good evening, and thank you so much for your time. So just looking at the new minimum wage being 20 Rand 76 cents per hour coming into effect on the 1st of March, how would we imagine anyone would be able to live on that?
Yuveka, this is really an extremely disappointing increase. A 3.8 increase is effectively a 130 Rand increase per month. When we look at the cost of a basic basket of three core expenses in a household, transport, food and electricity, in the end of January, already workers had 662 Rand too little to procure what we would measure in our basket as a level of dignity, a basic level for workers. And so with a 3.8 increase when inflation is expected to be in the region of 4.5%, when we are looking at the possibility of a possible VAT increase comes budget next week, possible fuel levy increases, the situation for workers will be worse than they were in 2019.
So what do you see the impact of this being, other than, yes, Mervyn, them battling to whether it is to get to work, whether to put food on the table, pay for education, or whatever it is that they have to, for those who have children who are in school? What do you see happening? Are we going to see more and more people not actually being able to make it to these jobs? Or how do you see this panning out for them?
Well, what we are anticipating is across two areas. The first is that households will be under greater financial stress. What that would relate to and what that would in fact mean is that households in all likelihood will cut back on the expenses that they control. And of course the expenses a household controls is really the food bill. And so we are expecting a cutback on the food bill. The effects of that for South Africa would be probably greater child stunting. At the moment, we have 30% of boy children stunted, 25% of girl children under the age of 5 stunted. We would probably see an increase in our death statistics of people who are dying as a result of non-communicable diseases like diabetes and high blood pressures, etc., because that is connected to chronic undernutrition. That's the first area of impact. The second area of impact we would see is on the general economy. Of course, workers with their wages are also the consumers who are buying the products and the goods and services that are being created. With less money in their pockets, they will be able to buy less. And in buying less, we are probably seeing that any talk of economic growth, any talk of retail companies coming back after a very, very bad year is probably going to be unlikely. And so the impact of this increase will ripple right through the economy, and in all likelihood could even lead to greater job losses as a result.
And what would have been reasonable, Mervyn, in this case? What should Thulas Nxesi, sort of maybe, where should he have met in the middle ground? Where would he have been able to maybe come to something, a figure that would have been acceptable to most people in this situation?
Well, of course, that's extremely difficult to say because, you know, the various sectors of the economy are not monolithic groups. So there are some sectors of the economy who probably can afford double that, and there's some sectors of the economy that are struggling. But if we were expecting something in the region of about 6%, because that is where inflation, in fact, was tracking for the lower income sectors of the population. And so with an increase of 6%, we are at least saying that workers are at the same level and the same buying power as they would have had in 2019. But 3.8% is way, way too low. And so what we are going to see is a cutback on a number of fronts when it comes to households.
Or people actually getting themselves into more debt, Mervyn. Don't you think those who are going to opt for loans just to make ends meet, those who are going to go into deeper credit crises as well, or debt crises when it comes to just getting by for the basics month to month?
Well, we are already seeing that South Africa, almost 76 to 78% of income into households, and this is by and large the middle class, are going to service debt. So South African households are under immense debt crisis. But of course, when we're talking about workers who are earning the national minimum wage, we are talking about those workers who earn the least in the economy. And of course, those workers do not have access to banks and to financial institutions. So what they have to do is, in fact, they have to go to loan sharks. And what we are being told in lower income communities is that they receive their wage at the end of the month, they go to the person where they've taken a loan from, they pay that person back, and probably end up with 1/3 of the wage left to pay the expenses, because mid-month they're going to have to go back and take another loan to just try and get through to the end of the month. So generally speaking, South African households, right through from the middle class to the poorest, are suffering under major financial stress and servicing of debt.
And as the cost of living is definitely bound to go up, it just seems like there's going to be no hope for them. Thank you very much there, Mervyn Abrahams in Durban.